There is a specific kind of silence that follows you into a room. You've felt it at dinner tables, in office hallways, and in the middle of crowded parties. It's not the silence of peace, it's the silence of a subtle, unspoken withdrawal. You notice how the conversation shifts when you speak, how people's eyes scan for an exit, or how they laugh a little too quickly at a joke that wasn't meant to be funny. You sit there, perhaps holding a glass, perhaps staring at a point on the wall just past someone's shoulder, and you feel the weight of a peculiar isolation. You are not disliked, yet you are not among. You are a presence that people feel they must handle rather than hold. And if you've lived with this long enough, you've started to blame yourself. You've tried to dim the lights of your own mind. You've learned to rehearse normal small talk. You've practiced the art of being less, hoping that by shrinking, you might finally fit. But as Arthur Schopenhauer once observed, a man can be himself only so long as he is alone. If he does not love solitude, he will not love liberty. What you haven't realized is that society isn't rejecting your personality. It is reacting to your frequency. Society is a system of equilibrium, and intelligence is a disruption. This is not about your social skills. It is about the brutal psychology of why the world is terrified of anyone who sees it clearly. To understand why your presence causes a shiver in the social fabric, we must look at the work of Arthur Schopenhauer. He believed that the world is driven by a blind, irrational force he called the will. This will is the hungry, restless impulse to survive, to reproduce, and to belong. Most people are entirely submerged in this will. They don't think, they react. They follow traditions they didn't choose, chase status symbols they don't actually value, and repeat phrases they heard on the news as if they were their own thoughts. This unconscious living is the only way society remains stable. It requires everyone to agree on the same illusions. Then you walk in. The highly intelligent person possesses what Schopenhauer called a surplus of intellect. In most animals and many humans, the mind is just a tool for the will, a way to get food or social safety. But in you, the intellect has broken free. It has become a mirror. When you look at a social gathering, you aren't seeing fun. You are seeing the architecture of denial. You see the hidden resentment in a couple's playful banter. You see the hollow desperation in a friend's need for attention. You see the scripts, the masks, and the lies. And here's the psychological truth. People do not fear the unknown. They fear being known. When you speak with depth, or even when you simply stay quiet with a discerning look in your eyes, you are performing an unintended interrogation. Your presence forces people to see the parts of themselves they have spent decades burying. You are a walking, open loop in their subconscious. They sense that you see through them, and in that moment, they feel psychologically naked. Their withdrawal isn't because you are boring, it's because you are a threat to their comfort. If you are this kind of person, you likely carry an invisible curriculum of survival. Because you realized early on that your natural frequency was disruptive, you developed a set of complex psychological defenses. Psychology refers to this as social camouflage or masking. You have spent years building a pleasant ghost, a version of yourself that is polite, agreeable, and intellectually dimmed. You've learned to fold your thoughts into shapes that fit into the small boxes of casual conversation. But this labor is exhausting. While others are relaxing at a party, your prefrontal cortex is working overtime. You are scanning for tone changes. You are calculating the social cost of every sentence. You are translating your complex inner landscape into a language that won't cause friction. Schopenhauer described this beautifully when he said, "The more a man has in himself, the less he will want from other people." But the tragedy is that society views this self-sufficiency as arrogance. To the herd, your independence looks like a critique of their dependence. Your silence isn't seen as peace, it's seen as a judgmental void. If you've ever wondered why you feel heavy after social interaction, it's because you haven't just been talking, you've been managing the insecurities of everyone in the room. You've been acting as an emotional anchor for people who didn't even know they were drifting. You are the strong one by default, simply because you are the only one who can see the cracks in the foundation. There is a dark side to this clarity, one that Schopenhauer explored with brutal honesty. He believed that with increased intelligence comes increased capacity for suffering. When you see the patterns of the world, you also see its tragedies. You see the shadow of every institution. You see the end of every beginning. While others are happy in the now because they don't see the then, you are constantly living in the whole. This can lead to a profound existential fatigue. You may feel like a renovated building, sitting on an old, trembling foundation. Your mind is modern, sharp, and insightful, but your nervous system is still wired for ancient survival. This creates a duality. You can analyze your own pain with clinical precision, but you still feel it with primal intensity. In this duality makes your relationships complicated. You want connection, but you crave substance. You find yourself easily wounded, not by hostility, but by carelessness. To a highly intelligent mind, inconsistency in others feels like a system error. When a friend says one thing but feels another, you detect the dissonance immediately. While most people would ignore the shift in tone, your brain flags it. You can't unsee the truth. This often leads to a retreat into solitude, not because you hate people, but because you hate the vibration of the mask they wear. You are looking for emotional sincerity, but in a world driven by the will, sincerity is a rare and expensive currency. So how do you live in a world that is allergic to your depth? The answer doesn't lie in fixing your social skills. It lies in internal reorganization. You must stop treating your intelligence as a service for others and start treating it as a sovereignty for yourself. Schopenhauer's solution was the aesthetic contemplation, the ability to look at life as an observer rather than a victim. You must move from being a participant in the social drama to being its interpreter. Here are your 5 non-negotiable shifts. 1. Use discomfort as a compass. The next time you feel a room withdraw from you, don't apologize. Observe it. Realize that their discomfort is a signal that you have touched a truth they aren't ready for. Let the discomfort be. It is not yours to carry. 2. Stop justifying your silence. You don't need to give 3 paragraphs of explanation for why you don't want to go to a shallow event. Respect for yourself begins with firmness. A no is not a rejection of them. It is a yes to your own peace. 3. Truth before effort. Abandon the pleasant ghost. If the conversation is hollow, let it be hollow. Do not perform interest. When you stop subsidizing the boredom of others, you save that energy for the few people who can actually meet you at your depth. 4. Protect the architecture. Your mind is a sacred space. Do not let people with muddy shoes walk through it. Set boundaries not out of anger, but out of system integrity. If someone consistently drains your battery, realize that they aren't a friend. They are a vulnerability in your nervous system. 5. Replace reactivity with pause. When society tries to shame you into being normal, pause. Remember Schopenhauer. Remember that the herd always fears the individual. Your strangeness is actually your sincerity. You were not born to fit into society. You were born to interpret it. And nothing about your isolation is broken. Your caution, your depth, and your over-analysis are simply the residue of your evolution. You have outgrown the cage of the herd instinct. As you move forward, remember this: society will always reward the numb, the loud, and the predictable. But the world is healed by the observant, the deep, and the truthful. Your surplus of intellect is not a burden you have to carry. It is a quiet power you have to guard. You are a lighthouse. And the purpose of a lighthouse isn't to join the ships in the storm. It is to stand still and shine so they don't hit the rocks. You don't need to be understood by everyone to have value. You only need to be understood by yourself. You didn't just go through the silence, you grew through it. And that growth, however painful, has made you someone capable of creating a future far gentler than your past. If this exploration touched a part of you that you've kept hidden, it's because you are finally ready to stop apologizing for the depth of your own mind. There is no longer a need to feel guilty for the solitude you require or the standards of sincerity you hold. You are not alone in your isolation. There is a quiet community of those who see, those who feel, and those who refuse to numb themselves to the weight of reality. If you found a mirror in these words today, consider joining us. By subscribing, you aren't just following a channel, you are signaling to yourself that your inner world is worth exploring. And if you have a moment, I'd like to read your thoughts. Comment below with the phrase, "I am no longer afraid of the silence." It is a small gesture, but it is often the first step in reclaiming your own authority. Thank you for sharing your time with me. It is the most valuable thing you have. Go gently into the rest of your day. Remember, you didn't just go through this, you are growing through it, and that growth is your quiet power.